It is a failed amendment.
It is a
So
failed
yeah.
amendment. Yeah, it got removed. It was so good it got removed. So
On the premise of our parameters, how revolutionary was it?
it
Very
has no
revolutionary.
impact
How long
nowadays.
lasting? Yeah, how long lasting was it? It ain't there.
Is it really an
ain't there.
amendment if it has no power?
You know what has
Yeah.
more power? 19. You know why? Because it got rid of it.
No.
No, you're
No,
wrong.
no, my bad. That's women's suffrage. Oh my god, I jumped way ahead. Women's
That's so
suffrage.
funny. And you put it under B.
Yeah.
You put it under B. That's so funny to me.
B.
Oh.
This
Yeah.
has less
So wait,
power
women's
than
right to
the
vote, buddy? B tier? I love it.
Yeah,
oh, my God.
it is what it is.
You put
for
that next to
babes.
senators. That's so funny.
B for babes can vote.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey guys.
Wow, that was like so low energy.
Yeah, it's a little low energy day, but you guys want to hear a Constitution joke?
You talking about the parchment or like someone's resolve?
Oh my God. No, I just want. God damn it, Dean.
Already ruined your. Yeah, hit me. I want to hear a good politics joke.
All right, so let's do a knock knock joke. Knock knock.
Knock knock.
No, you're supposed to say who's there.
Who's there?
Jackass. Boo.
Boo hoo.
Boo hoo. Don't cry. We have the best jokes about the U.S. Constitution.
Is that an actual joke like in law school?
That is literally the #1 joke listed on this website.
That is pitiful for humanity.
It is. This is terrible.
Well, this is what happens when you get lawyers to make jokes.
Well, I mean, that is true.
This is why they're not stand-up comedians at the same time.
Yeah. What is the first amendment in Super Mario's Constitution?
In Super Mario's, like the platformers or like Smash?
Dean, why are you asking these questions?
Oh, you're reading from the website.
You're ruining
still.
the buildup
Yeah,
of the jokes themselves.
Sorry, I thought he was I thought he was making up one on the spot. What is it?
Freedom of Peach.
Ah, that's good. That's good. Right to assemble the Goombas.
Yeah. Okay, so this website has terrible, terrible Constitution jokes.
Yeah. Well.
But you know what isn't terrible?
What?
The U.S. Constitution.
God bless America.
You know what? I think we should do a tier list on the U.S. Constitution. All 27
list.
amendments.
We're going to rank the 27 amendments of the Constitution. There's no way we were prepared for this.
Yeah, that's so natural.
Like it's not we didn't plan this, but the 18th Amendment is going to be going somewhere, and then the 20th Amendment will be
Ooh, foreshadowing. It's going on the board.
It's going to go on the board, yeah. But
why don't we just skip an amendment? Like it doesn't even qualify.
We just like skip the 14th Amendment.
Yeah. I assume we're gonna go in like chronological order or numerical order, right. I should say.
Also, we should probably start the episode.
Oh,
hey guys, welcome to
Oh, we're started. Go.
Oh, that was. Did we do a cold start?
You did. Hey guys, with such low energy, and that's it.
Well, let's change that up. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Unfiltered Pineapple Podcasts. I am Ari, joined today by Dean and Orik. And let's do the Constitution. Let's do the tier list.
That's right. A tier list on the 27 amendments of the U.S.A. Constitution. There's no way this could go wrong.
Nothing better.
You guys have a favorite amendment?
Do I have a favorite amendment?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't remember them all. I used to. So by default, I'll say #1 because it kind of leads to the rest of all the others.
I can't remember like the amendments after the 23rd.
So the newest ones.
I mean, I know the 27th. That one's like lowering the age for voting, but Or wait, no. That's
Yeah,
not
we'll have
it.
to look them up again.
Damn. All right.
We got stuff from
and I'm in
income
and I'm in
tax to
law
terms
school,
and
so
succession, prohibition.
yeah.
Oh, that was later than I thought. Oh, that's what the 23rd is. Okay. I'm looking them up on a list. Gotcha. More, there's a
Yeah,
lot of
so the very
taxes in
last
here.
amendment, the very last amendment was the
It's,
law that you can't increase or decrease salaries of the members of
yeah,
Congress.
congressional compensation.
Yeah.
Anyways, are we gonna go any order? Let's just go in order. Let's make this easy for everyone.
Okay.
We'll start
Yeah.
with number 1. So,
All right. So the
Ari
First Amendment,
as our
scribe,
scribe, no,
constitutional,
as our local lawyer,
constitutional,
as the group's lawyer.
the constitutional lawyer of the
Yeah.
group. Sure.
Yeah. You'll have to translate some of these if we don't know what it means.
So the First Amendment, that one says, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people to peacefully assemble, and to petition the government for redress of grievances. So, do you guys understand what that means?
Explain what the redress of grievances is, because that's one a lot of people forget that is part of the First Amendment. There's 2 core parts.
Right. So the redress of grievances is pretty much like, you're able to have speech that is like critical of the government, but also you have that ability to petition the government for, well, I guess like, using the words like as part of the definition, it's just like redress of grievances, like, the government has to um like, they have how would I explain this?
Do
Like,
they have to be transparent about stuff? Or if you ask for information, they have to provide it?
it's like the right to communicate with government officials, to lobby them and petition the courts, to
Oh, like
make
to contact your
changes.
senator about something. Be like, hey, I don't like this bill.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So if they pass a law like saying, "Oh yeah, you can't contact your senator," that's unconstitutional. So, um,
By the way, we're not going to be reading word for word every amendment. We're just going to summarize the later ones.
Yeah, but the first several are kind of important for their wordage.
Oh yeah, that I get that. We're going to highlight the important provisions of each, of course. But
mhm.
I was just saying, like the 13th Amendment and a few others are very lengthy, broken up into multiple parts.
Oh yeah, the 14th is definitely a long amendment.
Yeah. So, because we're not law school students, we don't need to check for prepositions. Where do you guys put numero uno, the one that does it all?
I mean, a lot of people would say is like it's A. Is A
I
tier.
think at least A tier. Oh, we should probably figure out what the criteria is for ranking the amendments.
It's trash. It's A tier. If it's
It's
great. It's S tier.
we're looking because it's a constitution. It's alive. It's while the whole government's
Right.
still alive. It's going to be I can't speak today. The entire history of the country and it going ahead. Like, oh well, this didn't age well. It's still good, or it's something that's
Hmm.
good. You know what I mean?
I think yeah, the criteria should be like one, do we still use it? And then two is something like do people know it?
Is it
Are
really that
people
important that it exists in the Constitution?
Revolutionary at
Yeah.
the time and
right.
afterwards.
Well, yeah, at the time as well as afterwards, what it may have led to or didn't do. So,
And I guess like also do people like make lawsuits out of it? Like,
oh, I'd
First
love to
Amendment
hear
is
some.
obvious. It's like, like
The First
if
Amendment has granted, I think, access to all these other amendments. So honestly, I'll say I personally would rank it as S. Everyone knows
Same
about
here.
it.
S
Without it, a lot of these other amendments wouldn't exist, nor stuff in our history.
I mean, it's also the premise of amendments, laws, rules, constitutions of other countries too. They modeled off of it.
Yeah.
right. And just for a side fact is the first 10 amendments are referred to as the Bill of Rights.
Ding, ding,
So
ding.
when the when the Constitution was first written, a lot of people didn't agree to have a strong federal government, and so they wanted a list of rights available to the people. And so without the bill of rights, the first 10 amendments, the
The rest of the colonies wouldn't have signed up for it.
they wouldn't have signed up for it, and it would have definitely failed. So
Yeah. And it was important because they didn't want a government to form again in the way that King George took power or whatever, I think it was. The third, George
right.
the third or something.
And we did want to go back to the system of government that we had before, which were the Articles of Confederation, which basically had a very weak central government, and
that was just kind of like,
that
hey, we're all on this side of the ocean. We're all on the same team, right? Yeah. And that's it.
but pretty much like all the states had unlimited power, and they gave very little to the central federal government. So
Yeah, it was like I said, we're all on the same team, but no one's doing anything in coordination. They're
yeah,
like, yeah, if one of us is attacked, we might help.
we might.
We'll hear
If it's
you.
if it's in our interest.
We will not shoot the messengers when they come asking for help. That is a fact.
I mean, it would be weird to have South Carolina enter into like a favorable trade agreement with England, and then I guess like New York trying to do the same and then getting screwed over, and then
yeah,
having
so
to go with France or something.
definitely the beta test at the time.
That's such a weird concept. But all right. So First Amendment is S tier.
S tier. Done.
What about the
All right.
what about the second?
For the least controversial, most forgettable
Oh,
amendment.
buddy, yeah. The Second Amendment. Oh, yeah.
Amendment number 2, because no one ever remembers what it is. I will read what the
Right, yeah,
description is.
like,
No
no
soldier
one-
shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house.
That's the third.
I know.
That's the third, buddy.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh,
so-
sorry. Second, so easy to forget. The second one.
Yeah,
I'll
I
read it.
know. Like who?
Second Amendment, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So, obviously, the right to keep and bear arms is in there. The other part is to keep a well-regulated militia to keep the peace for the people, because not everyone is able to or will fight. Therefore, correct me if I'm wrong, Ari, but everyone is allowed to just have guns, in short. Whether it's to be impromptu,
That's such a political question.
impromptly
because,
arise to fight impeding forces. Now, obviously, at the time, there wasn't like this well-coordinated effort by the country.
Yeah, there
or
wasn't
internet.
a standing army.
This was we're all in America. If Britain's coming to attack, we won't know if they're attacking New York. So if you see them at your doorstep, you're allowed to do what you want. If they came back,
Right. Yeah. At the time, it was definitely difficult to coordinate, large militaries, and the United States did not have a large military at the
No,
time.
it was all like farmers or anyone that was like there.
Right. And so, like, the political question is like, what does it mean to be a relegated militia? And militia can be like an actual like group of people, that are actual like militias, similar to the National Guard, or is militia just like referring to the regular common folk? And so that's where I guess people like to ask that political question of like, does the right to have arms, extend to only certain groups, or does it extend to all Americans? But I did want to actually share like a little bit of interesting information that I found on like the Second Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at the different state ratified versions, like they have comma placements in very different places. And for me, like as someone who's in law school, it's just like, a comma placement, changes like the meaning of like
some words or
of
compounds. Yeah.
So like there's the Maryland version, which has the comma like right after free state. If you were to read that, you would say that guns are only available to militias. Okay, and there's some other ones like New York, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island.
Yeah, the one I'm looking at has it after free state.
Right, and there's also one that has a comma after like the right of the people to keep and bear arms, comma, shall not be infringed. So it just adds so many different like meanings to it because it's just like, you read it, you take a pause, and then it's like, so you
Next,
have
yeah,
different clauses.
next
Yeah.
phrase, next clause, next thought. How does this connect? Yeah. I should probably look up. I thought Constitution Center was correct. It's the website I'm looking at. Maybe it's off. Have to
You
look
could
at
always
the.
go to the official government websites.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So where do you guys put it, or do you have any other thoughts?
Oh man.
So going on the premise of what we defined earlier about something being revolutionary and long-lasting, like the intent of why it was made was certainly revolutionary, but the long-lasting impact of that intent is different than the impact we have today, better or worse. So
Right.
unlike the freedom of speech, which everyone knows and everyone has understanding of, like, oh, these are the rights, this is what we can
Hmm.
do here, there, the amount of politics, misunderstandings, and the ways it can be misconstrued or incorrectly construed. I have to put it like B tier, just because as written, it causes too much confusion. It probably doesn't have the same lasting effect that was originally intended for it.
When you have different schools of thought that it's just one sentence basically, and it's just, it's causing so much trouble,
So much
and it's just
confusion.
like, yeah, I agree with B.
Um.
It's
Yeah.
not to say that it's bad in and of itself, but like we said, in terms of like being revolutionary and causing some sort of long-term impact, the long-term impact that they intended for is different than what we see nowadays, than
And
what we even
people
saw
only
100 years
quote,
ago.
yeah, and people only quote like the right to bear arms, but they leave
Uh,
out the well-regulated militia part.
Being
or the other
Give
20,
necessary to
or the
be,
other 20 words.
or the
Well,
clause
I mean, they leave out
the
all the rest too, but like a well-regulated militia is definitely like a key part, as
as well
it
as
is
the
an
clause of
object.
being
It
necessary
is. I
to
mean,
the
like, it is a
security of a free
subject.
state.
Yeah, it
Necessary
is a
to the security
subject.
of a free state. So then you have
They
to
miss the premise of it, why it's
yeah.
there. Yeah.
Um not yeah, again, not opposed to the Second Amendment, but the wording of it just has confused a lot of people back then and uh through time. So, I'll agree with B tier for now. That was a little
Now for the best
now
one.
for now for probably my favorite one. Third Amendment
Is
quartering soldiers. No soldier shall, comma, in time of peace be quartered in any house, comma, without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. So in
you
times of
missed the
war,
last
there
two
can be a
commas
law.
there.
Yeah, in times of war, there can be a law that's like, hey, the battlefront is 2 blocks away. Maybe he let a soldier stay here for the night. But that has to be passed in law. Is that correct?
I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it. This one is a very straightforward amendment.
No
This
confusion
is
here.
yeah, no, there's definitely no confusion here. This amendment was very specific, response towards the British Parliament. They enacted a series of laws, but the first one was the Quartering Acts, which required the American colonies, to pretty much pay the cost of British soldiers, serving in the colonies,
Oh,
and then
that's right. That's
requiring
right.
them
Yeah.
and requiring them to, provide
House,
them,
feed, service, yeah.
All out of
yeah.
pocket.
And so that was something that they didn't like, and that's the reason why we have the Third Amendment.
So, where do you guys rank it?
I mean, we still see the lasting impact, at least in America. I can't recall the last time I heard of anyone since the country was being founded being forced to have soldiers quarter at their house without their consent.
I don't think I've ever heard any court case involving the Third Amendment.
since
So,
since
It's
since
I
the
mean it's
Constitution was ratified, yeah, like it's like, hey, here's something we also will do to unify
I
and be
mean
a country,
yeah,
and
just
then
on the
just
premise that it's so straightforward and everyone understands it and there's no debate or argument. I gotta say it's S tier. As written, it does exactly as it needs to, and everyone understands it, even if they don't remember it. They agree
mhm.
with it.
Yeah. So, a little interesting fact about the Third Amendment is one of the least cited sections of the U.S. Constitution. So,
what
a
do you mean
lot
by
of
that? You mean like where people are like discussing it?
Okay, so in
Wait.
court cases,
Oh, cited
not
and
a lot
cited like like
not a
precedent.
lot of yeah. Not a
Okay.
lot of cases cite to the Third Amendment. I will say that it was very instrumental in like a lot of important decisions involving privacy. So just to give you an example, Justice Douglas in 1965 used the Third Amendment along with the others like the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the
Yeah.
Fourth Amendment, the Fifth, pretty much the whole Bill of Rights
Mm-hmm.
as like the basis for like even though there is no right to privacy in the
No
U.S.
explicit, it's
Constitution,
implicit. Yeah.
right?
An implicit right.
All of
Or
the shadows of just to go back to the Third Amendment, you have the right to be free in your home. Basically, you cannot provide, or you don't have to provide, soldiers with like the quartering, and so it's just like all of those individual rights cited in the First Amendment, the Second, and the whole rest. It's just like you have that right to privacy.
you know what? I kind of agree with Orik's mindset of that. Where initially I was like, oh, it's the one that's like most forgettable for the Bill of Rights. That people just forget is an amendment because it's never been an issue. But I think that makes it a strong. Like others on this list are easily just as forgettable, and probably are not as straightforward or as impactful. But we've never had an issue or an uprising involving this
The
Third
Third
Amendment.
Amendment.
Yeah. So it does its job exceptionally well, and it's not there. No one's confused about it.
There was one citation that I see to the Third Amendment, which was Mitchell versus City of Henderson. Pretty much, police officers were using like this person's home as a lookout point,
Yeah.
and yeah, in the court of this case, the district court in Nevada held that the Third Amendment didn't apply because they're police officers and not soldiers. So.
Interesting. Is that the one where the house also got blown up by the police?
Maybe I'm
No,
not
that's a
sure.
different one in Colorado.
Okay, I was gonna say I know it's like west half of the U.S.
Well, you talking about the thief or the robber breaking into the house and hiding on the second floor? And they're like, "Well, we can't flush him out. Let's blow it up."
Well, there's several instances of that. Yeah, there's that one definitely, but
Yeah.
also ones where cops are using the houses as lookout points, and the house gets damaged, and they're like, "Oh well, it's part of the job." They didn't intentionally blow up the house, but it did take damage. So, unlike that one story, yeah. Oh, sorry.
They're just like, "Well, we've been at this for 24 hours. We'll just give up and blow it up." Since the
So where
guy,
do you rank it, Ari?
I mean, it's an important one where it's not commonly cited. People probably don't even know that that's a right.
Exactly.
Um,
But like you said, also played a big role in the right to
it
privacy,
it
which is
it, it,
implicit, an implicit
it
right.
was
Yeah.
it was instrumental in crafting the right to privacy, which was also used in like later cases like Roe v. Wade.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would say it's important, but it's also losing importance too, because I kind of say like the right to privacy is kind of diminishing in the country right now. So
Well, it is,
I
but
don't
it's
know.
still part of the Constitution, so people can challenge
we're not
infringements of
talking
their
about the.
rights.
Well,
We're not
the thing
talking
is
about
like the Supreme Court is moving in a direction where it's just like they don't even believe like it didn't say explicitly in the Constitution that there's a right to privacy, and it was kind of constructed
Yeah,
out of
it's
all of the amendments. But even with that, it's just like it can be one day overturned. So
We're not talking about the right to privacy. We're talking about the Third Amendment as it is.
yeah,
And the impact
the
that
right
the
to
Third
not have to
Amendment.
quarter troops.
Yeah.
oh well, if that's the case, then yeah, like you'll never have to quarter troops
It
in
does
during
its job
peacetime.
fantastically. So
I
where do
guess
you
the
rank it?
military got the message clear on that
The
one. So,
military got it loud
um,
and clear.
Sir, yes, sir.
I say A. I'm not gonna
I
put.
I agree with you on that one. I think A is a good spot.
It's not as impactful as freedom of speech and everything, but it's up there. No real confusion about it. People can do what they want with it.
That's
But
fine.
yeah,
I'll go with A tier.
They don't know it, but if they hear it, they wouldn't be confused about that.
yeah. All right. Next amendment. Who's reading it?
Ah, Christ, I know this one.
Right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized.
No
Fourth
unreasonable
Amendment.
searches and
Search and
seizures.
seizures.
Yeah.
There's just so many things in that amendment.
So we're just going to talk about the search and seizure element because that's what everyone remembers.
I could talk to you about we went from the case, or we went from the amendment, the least cited amendment, to the most cited
The one-
amendment.
I was about to
Yeah.
ask. I think this was this or the fifth. I thought.
No, it's the fourth. The fifth is
It's
right
the
next
fourth?
to it, but the fourth usually starts it all off.
Yeah, I thought so.
Right, the Fourth Amendment. Christ, there's so many elements to it, because like you have the right of the
There's
people
so
to be
many
secure.
clauses in it already. Yeah, in addition
Yeah.
to it, it's like, hey, this is a very specific right about
Because you have questions about like what is an unreasonable search, what is a seizure.
ambiguous terms that could be either extremed or normalized.
No, the thing is, like, what constitutes a search? Like, can the police, like, for
Eyeball it
instance,
without opening your car. Can they just look in the window? Yeah.
that's one.
Yep.
And then another one is like, they take a helicopter, they go around the neighborhood. If they see like marijuana plants, like, in your backyard, like, is that legal? And then you also have supported by oath or affirmation. So it's just like, all right, they have to get a warrant.
So where do you rank
and
it?
the police have to be like, okay, like, yeah, we saw like marijuana plants, like, in this guy's backyard. God, that's
This guy's intense. He's got full blown trees with these things.
He made trees.
he made marijuana trees. Anyways, yeah, upon probable cause.
Now you have to define probable.
Yeah.
What gives cause, yeah, etc. So where do we put this, both in terms of, I guess, impact, ambiguity / confusion,
Oh, there's
clarity?
so much ambiguity, but
How
the
much has it
impact
helped?
is-
How much has it not helped the country?
It's definitely either helped or screwed over criminal defendants. People who have cases against the government, basically. So I would say, personally, I would put it an F, because like it is so freaking hard to learn.
As a law student, is your
As a
least
law
favorite.
student, it is my least favorite,
All right.
but it is the most important.
Yeah, that's why I moved it up to like B. I was like, I'll put you right at the fringe because of importance. But that's about it.
I hate it, but
I
I have
think-
to say is S.
I think based on intent and where it's gone over the years, the centuries, it's at least a B, because it's provided significant contribution and milestone to individuals and society. Yeah, there's faults. Yeah, there's flaws. There's a lot of lawsuits, but the impact is still well known by everyone. It's just a matter of the nuances of how it impacts certain situations and people and practices and such and such.
How it can be
that-
enforced.
Exactly.
Normal
So
people don't know the Fourth Amendment, but lawyers, they all know the Fourth Amendment. So I would say it is S tier. It is very important.
Well, considering the bulk of the judicial system revolves around the Fourth Amendment, it seems, including like
No,
just
literally
getting
everything.
just involving getting it to the courtroom. Yeah, I think the significance itself outweighs all the other
Cons.
negatives. Yeah, simply because everyone uses it. Everyone has this right before you even go to the courtroom, like to make sure it's you're supposed to be there. It wasn't like illegal. It's not like a sham trial.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. And so number 5 then is the right of persons. No person shall be held to answer for a
It's
capital
a
or
long
otherwise
one.
infamous crime, blah, blah, blah.
Just
Basically,
summarize it.
no
Summarize it.
self-perjury.
I mean, yeah, I guess. But there's also the part of, you're not going to be deprived of life, liberty, or property
Yeah,
without
nor be deprived
process.
of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, so without going through the courts. Nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation.
Yeah, without just yeah. So that's the eminent domain portion of that. But also double jeopardy.
And grand juries.
I don't have.
It's the
I only
grand
have
jury
500
process.
points. I'm not gonna win. What's double? I'm sorry about that. I'm so sorry. What's the double jeopardy part? I don't see it.
It is actually so no person or any person be subject for the same offense
Oh, that's right.
twice.
That's right. You can't get
Yeah.
You can't get charged for the same crime multiple times.
Yeah.
Once it's gone
Yeah.
through, if you got cleared or indicted, it stands. You can't go
I'll
back.
take who got it wrong for $400. Trebek.
Yeah, it can go through the appeals court for improper trials. But
Alex Trebek makes a ruling as to whether.
where do you rank it then? It's It's tightly coupled to 4. Everyone doesn't like it until they need to use it, and then it's like, don't talk to the police, don't self-incriminate.
Then they
Yeah.
plead
So
the
the
fifth.
right, like, the first thing that comes to mind is like I plead the fifth. Like it's pretty commonplace. People know this amendment, It's just like you have that ability to say like, I'm not going to
The Miranda rights
I'm
came
not
out
going to
because of
say
this.
I'm not going to be a witness in my own
Yeah,
crime.
and the Miranda rights came out
Um
because of this, right?
yeah, so of course everyone knows like the Miranda warnings. So police officers have to tell
Everyone.
the
They have to
people
tell
who
you
were
that they have to tell
interrogated.
you they're a cop. They have to tell you they're a cop.
Yeah.
Well,
Anytime
no,
you
they don't
ask.
have to. They don't have to.
Anytime you ask.
They don't have to. Stop. So pretty much just like you have the right to remain silent. Anything that you say can be used against you in a court of law. If you can't afford an attorney, a court will provide you with one. Pretty much that. Um, let's see. And the
Sounds like
police
we're
have
gonna
to.
rank it at S tier.
No, I would say
A?
A.
Orik?
Yeah, A is good for me. We got a few bangers to get through in the future, so I think there's plenty of other opportunities
I
for
would
S
say like
tier.
it helps a lot of criminal defendants more than I guess.
Well, yeah,
the
it protects the
useful-
individual. It may not protect the victims, but it protects the individual that the case is about. So, or it may
Mhm.
not protect. Yeah.
It's to help prevent the government from overwhelming a single individual, using all government resources against a single individual to get the result the government wants.
All right. So the Sixth Amendment is rights in criminal prosecutions. Simplify this one, Ari.
Let me take a look.
All criminal.
Oh yeah. So the Sixth Amendment is like you shall have
Right
the
to a
right to
jury
speedy
trial.
trial,
Speedy trial. Okay.
Yeah.
speedy public trial. Impartial jury. Let's see.
To confront opposing
You-
witnesses and to
You
counsel.
you have the right to be confronted with people who are like witnessing against you. Have compulsory.
And have the assistance.
Yeah,
of
pretty
the
much like
counsel,
you can
yeah.
and you can
And
bring
have
your
a
own
defense.
witnesses, and then you definitely have the right to counsel in
Yeah.
that one.
The right to a defense.
B.
B.
B tier.
B tier. Did you say
I
boy
mean,
or
this
dog?
stuff, B is in boy. It's not necessary to have the most well-functioning society, but it has its good impacts and bad impacts.
It's not
It
fantastic.
is one of the other amendments that helps criminal defendants.
Yeah, and you can also get biased juries through the selection stuff or other means. So it's not perfect. Witness testimony isn't the best because humans are humans. But in general, it's good. You have a right to a defense. You have a right to a trial, not just be accused or be punished.
It's more. You can
I
think of this
agree with
amendment
it.
more. You can agree with this amendment as more of a process rather than. I mean, it's a right, but look at it more as like defining the process for your right, as opposed to making something revolutionary revolutionary intentions.
Procedural rights, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, yeah. So we all
Because
agree
there's
B.
procedural rights and substantive rights, and okay,
Yes, thank you.
I'm not gonna explain what that means. So
No, but that's what I was trying to get at. So good.
We all agree with B then?
Yes.
yeah,
All right. So what about the 7th one, the civil trial rights?
I love
yeah.
this one because the law specifically says
Exceed
in suits.
$20.
Exactly. They haven't adjusted for inflation since the 1700s. Hasn't that has
There
none of
should
that
be
been
a
tried in a
case.
court? Has that been tried in court yet for someone? I thought that was a case a while back, at least in the 1900s, where someone tried to argue that $20 limit was too small and needed to be updated, and they tried suing for it.
Okay, so a
What?
little information about that. So, um, Congress actually passed a law that sets the amount for like the minimum for a what is it,
Petty court or not petty court? Trial court, civil court.
a civil a civil suit. I'm sorry.
Okay,
I don't know
yeah.
A
why.
civil suit.
Yeah,
Not a
yeah.
criminal. Okay.
So, under federal law, which is under 28 U.S.C. Section 1332, that one says that like the amount in dispute must exceed $75,000. So at minimum, if you wanted to sue in federal court, it has to be more than $75,000.
Oh, so they updated the verbiage a bit.
I mean, like it's still in the amendment, the $20, but because like Congress can pass a law to, they can say like a different amount.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To get it
So
ratified, you'd have to go through 3/4 state approval, or what was it, 2/3 of the public? Is that what it was? No, it was 3/4 of the states or 2/3 of the House and Senate. That's
Yeah.
right.
The
Oh,
public.
combination of all that. Combination of all that. That's correct.
No, there's two
Um,
options. There's two ways. Congress does it, or the
and
states do it independently of the federal of
yeah.
Congress.
So if the $20 requirement were still in place, with inflation, it'd be about $320.
That's still pretty low.
It
that's
is
it.
very low.
I mean, there's a
yeah.
lot of stuff you can do for $320, but there's plenty of times where people eat out for more than $320.
Or tip that much.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, where do we put it? I say D.
Yeah, D is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that feels right. Do we have anyone? I think I have an F.
D
We'll
for
get-
dollars.
Yeah. Eighth Amendment: cruel and unusual punishment. This thing shouldn't
Ooh, the fun
exist.
amendment.
We should
F.
allow
The BDSM amendment.
F.
yeah
F.
the what is it, the tarring and
Excessive bail.
chickening.
Excessive bail should not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted.
So it is
F.
slightly
It
ambiguous
doesn't
with
make
what's
things
defined as
fun.
cruel and unusual and excessive, but otherwise it's
Oh,
pretty
it is
straightforward.
definitely all ambiguous. But I think with this amendment, it pretty much just gives Congress the power to be like, all right, so yeah, this is excessive bail, or
We can't
this
tar
is
and
cruel and
feather
unusual.
you, but we won't stop others.
Hmm.
We just won't do it.
Takes out all the fun. It's an F.
Yeah. Where do you guys put it? How do you value the Eighth Amendment? How often are you thinking about it in your daily life?
This is something that's also tried a lot. I imagine in court cases, people trying to assess, what's fair, what's reasonable. Oh, I'm vegan, but I didn't get my meal. This
I
is
mean,
excessive.
even
This
some
is unusual punishment.
death row inmates who survive death row or their punishments because of faulty injections or surviving whatever shocks. They're like, hey, I took the punishment. I shouldn't have to do it again. So there's plenty of cases like that too, where it's like, yeah, I got
Yeah,
electrocuted 3 times and didn't die. I think I'm okay.
This one's also
Mm.
well litigated, so I like the premise of it. I think
I
it's
do
been
have
implemented
some
correctly.
yeah, I do have some facts that come with the Eighth Amendment. So excessive fines, like you can't have excessive fines. There was only one Supreme Court case that struck down a fine as excessive in United States versus Bakakaijan. I don't know if that's pronounced correctly. It was decided in 1998,
Mm-hmm.
and some of the facts was
Or
okay. So this guy, Syrian immigrant, tried to fly from L.A. to Cyprus, They had about $357,000 in their luggage in order to pay a debt, right?
Yeah.
And so the federal government tried to take that money under the Bank Secrecy Act, you know, because like any international transfers exceeding $10,000 has to be reported. So they tried taking the money. Um, the guy tried to get his money back, and the government pretty much said it's like, well, they can't take the whole $357,000. So the government pretty much, the Supreme Court was like, yeah, this is um excessive fine.
Hmm.
So
So where do you rank it?
that was only literally one case.
Yeah.
Uh let's see. And then cruel and unusual punishments. It's not very helpful.
Give it a
Um
C. B or a
Looking at
C.
like the cases that came from cruel and
Yeah, it's
unusual,
it's a bit ambiguous. People push
they
the
have a
boundaries. Yeah.
standard. They have a standard. So torture, obviously, you know,
Define torture. I mean,
cruel.
there's people that are into BDSM,
um,
like the man who just chuckled. No, I'm just kidding.
There's a lot of Glenn Quagmires out there
Yeah,
that
yeah.
enjoy asphyxiation and drowning simulation and stuff.
well, I
There's
mean, the
people.
court doesn't really specify what constitutes torture, but I
Yeah.
think anything that like punishment is
Probably seems like common
degrading
sense.
to
Like that
human
seems like a little
dignity.
much.
Yeah. Obviously inflicted in an arbitrary fashion, clearly and totally rejected throughout the society. I guess like one example would be tar and feathering. That would be
Yeah.
like cruel and unusual. First is cruel because like,
Tarring.
that's
Yeah.
you're burning people, and then like unusual because like you don't see that anymore.
Yeah, you can just buy a chicken suit nowadays.
Yeah. Um
It's definitely more unusual
it's
today.
important, but I would say like C.
All right. We all seem to agree with C then. Number 9 for Bill of Rights is the unenumerated rights. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. Basically, rights not expressly stated in the Constitution so far are not the only rights you have. There may be more, and they can
I
be
really
added.
hate this amendment.
Why is that? Because the
I don't
ambiguity.
No, I mean, I think it's very straightforward. I think the problem is because it doesn't really say much. Like, it's like, okay, any rights that you have is rights that you have, basically. And
You
it's
could
like,
have more, but right now they're just not written down.
They also can't be
so,
denied.
I mean,
If you
Yeah.
do have them and you can establish it, it can't be denied.
it's one of those amendments that haven't been, like, really litigated much.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's really nothing,
There's
no
nothing about it.
interpretation of the Ninth Amendment.
It just kind
It's
of
funny
exists.
that this has been litigated more than the third.
I mean,
I mean,
it's a good
that is
thing.
true.
It
Yeah.
is important that it is expressly written down that there are more rights that may not be listed so far. That allows for
Usually,
amendments and stuff. Because otherwise, people will be fighting
Usually,
it
if
all the
there's
time.
a reference to like a certain right, like going back to Roe v. Wade, like the Ninth Amendment has been cited in that case. Like, the Ninth Amendment provides that there's a right to choose to have an abortion. At least at the time, when it was decided. I mean, I
Because of the
guess like now there's no right to an abortion.
privacy. Yeah, the implicit privacy in the Constitution stuff. Yeah. So the fact that it exists is, I think, really important. But otherwise, it doesn't really do much other than just
Mm-hmm.
keep people from saying, well, it doesn't say we can't add more rights, or so why would we add more rights? Because, there'd be people like that if the ninth didn't exist. Well, it wasn't there in the first 10, in the first 8. You don't get any more rights.
Yeah.
I put it at D just because it exists, which is important, but that's about it. It basically, without number 9, any other amendments technically probably wouldn't pass.
I would say it might be lower than D, but Considering that
I
we put
say
the
9
7.
solely because without it, these other 17 amendments probably wouldn't have been passed or would have been challenged because it's like, well, we don't need them.
I think I sense like a direction of where we're going, where we list all of the Bill of Rights, at least above or at a D tier, which is kind of funny to me.
Why? Oh, because
Because like the Bill of Rights, or the Bill of Rights,
I
it's
mean,
just like all
without
of
those
them.
10, we wouldn't have the Constitution.
Yeah. So I mean, I agree with D then
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
for those reasons.
It's not the greatest, but it at least allows other amendments. That's how I see it. Because every amendment after this would have been challenged. Because it's like, well, it wasn't there initially. We don't know if this is an actual right that people have. The 10th Amendment, rights reserved to the states and the people.
And there's another one.
That's another long one. Is this one also where No, that's one of the articles. Never mind. 10th Amendment, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, the federal government, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. So anything that's not expressly written into law is a power of the government that is approved or accepted by the states. Therefore, all those things apply to the states. So the most recent example is Roe v. Wade is now a state issue. So each state government can do what they want to enforce abortion or block it or whatever. When it was a federal law, states couldn't challenge it, or they couldn't write laws contradicting the federal level. Now it has gone
The
back
10th
to
Amendment pretty much gives whatever powers that are not delegated to
the
the
federal
federal
government.
government to the states. And so that's been used a lot to invalidate federal laws.
Yeah.
One recent example that I can think of was the case involving the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare. That was where the states were compelled to expand Medicaid without actually being given the money to be able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, like the Obamacare's language was like coercive because it effectively forced the states to join the program on the condition of the continued provision of Medicaid funds. So like either you join us or we're gonna cut Medicaid. And so it's just like a gun pointed to your head basically and saying like, either join us and you get expanded Medicaid,
Yeah.
or
Keep your
the
Second Amendment
latter
right.
is just like, you're
Number 10
you're
is
just
very
gonna lose money.
Number 10 is
Yeah.
very competitive, is very combative between central government and state governments. So the
Yeah.
I
independence
like how
of
you used your Second Amendment right to that analogy.
If
yeah.
you're a fan of state government, this is your amendment. So in
So where do you
terms
rank
of
it?
impact, people don't know this amendment.
They don't. People forget it exists. They think it's just like in the
Uh,
Constitution, but it's its own amendment.
lawyers ignore this amendment. Congress ignores this amendment.
So a
The
lot
only
of
people
people
that care about it is state legislatures and
that want more
state
power from the
government.
federal government.
Yeah,
So where do we put it then?
I'll put it for D.
I was thinking D.
Okay. Sounds good to me. Yeah.
Yay, we're done with the Bill of Rights. Nice.
10 out of 27.
We got the first half done.
Yeah, basically it's the first half. This is the half everyone prioritizes, and then the other half is everything after day one. If we didn't
I
have...
didn't realize
some of these
10
later
out of
ones mean
27 is
nothing.
half. That's funny.
What was that, Ari?
I didn't realize that 10 out of 27 is half.
Look, we all went to college. Let's just put it that way.
I'm going to law school, which doesn't require math. You guys went into very heavy math fields. So
yeah, you know what? And I got a degree, so 10 is half of 27. You can trust me. That's all I have to say. Yeah, so the Bill of Rights are done. We got the Big 10 that everyone talks about or tries to remember the most. Everything after this point was after the Constitution was ratified. The Bill of Rights was ratified at the same time as the Constitution to get the Constitution ratified. Is that correct, Ari?
That is correct.
Yeah, so the Constitution was written, and they're like, well, let's have these agreements before we agree to sign the Constitution, and this will just be part of it. Now everything is from after. What day was the Constitution ratified again?
Good question.
Yeah. Basically, while someone looks that up, that's not me. Everyone else listening, we're going to go through the other 17 of these. Some of them you'll know, some of them I'd be impressed. So, starting
Bill
with
of Rights is also some of the most litigation heavy, which is why we took a little bit of time to go over the impacts of it because it's had the longest lasting.
that's also why none of them were rated F, like we said, because without these 10, the Constitution wouldn't have been ratified and we wouldn't exist. So even if they're contentious or don't do much, it was necessary for people to be like, you know what? I agree with these rules. We are now a country. So
the Constitution was ratified in December 7th, 1787.
1787. Okay.
Oh, hold on. Wait. Let me see. Is that right?
Well, number 11, while someone looks that up to validate.
The first amendments were ratified. The Bill of Rights was ratified December 15th, 1791.
So 4 years after the Constitution?
These amendments were ratified December 15th, 1791, and form what is known as the Bill of Rights.
Oh, so I was just wrong. Excuse me, everyone.
The Bill of Rights were ratified December 15th, 1791.
That's what Orik just said. And the Constitution was ratified 4 years before that, or a couple years before that. So, I was wrong. They weren't at the same time. I guess, I didn't graduate with a history degree.
Interesting. I need to revisit this.
Yeah, my understanding was that they passed at the same time. They're like, yeah, we'll sign this. So
I knew that there was a lag, but I didn't know it was 4 years. That's news to me.
So,
but let's talk about the 11th Amendment.
Real quick, the historical context to that, I didn't speak up yet. The historical context to that was you had the Articles of Confederation that needed to be rescinded and removed because it gave too much power to the states. So the Constitution was ratified to give the federal government more authority and to replace the Articles of Confederation.
Yeah.
Whatever it was.
After the Revolutionary War,
and then the Bill of Rights came afterwards once the Constitution was able to be more with more force enforced with more force.
Once it took shape. Once it's like, hey, we ratify this Constitution. We got every state's got their little system set up in coordination with each other. Now let's do the Bill of Rights. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Because the Constitution was setting up the things like the legislature and all those. So once all those things were in place, they could start creating the Bill of Rights.
Well, that makes sense. I'm happy to update my understanding of
the
law.
I did it. I wasn't looking it up. I was really trying to research the ratification of the Bill of Rights, and then I forgot what you originally asked.
It's all good. So next up, everybody, is I believe Ari's least favorite amendment. Suits against the states.
The 11th Amendment.
The First Amendment after the Bill of Rights. Maybe in another day we'll discuss dates, but
yeah, I really hate this amendment.
What is it?
Okay, so the amendment basically prevents people from being able to sue state governments. So, or like states. So if I wanted to bring a case against Maryland and I'm a resident of Virginia, I can't do it. Because states have sovereign immunity from lawsuits.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't sue the state of Maryland in federal court is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, the federal level can't sue the state level?
No. So like
you as an individual cannot take the state to federal court.
Okay.
If you have a grievance with the state, you have to be harmed by the state and sue them in state court.
Gotcha. Yeah. As if it's its own internal government. It defined that border.
Yes,
that distinction.
That's where the sovereignty comes from. Is they have the independence to regulate the affairs within their jurisdiction.
It defined the sovereignty. Gotcha. All right. Cool. So
and
you want this at F?
That amendment. I'm sorry.
You want this at F tier?
Yeah, I would say so because it prevents, like if I had something serious with Maryland, for instance, like I can't sue them in federal court. I would have to go to Maryland and sue them there. Or like, but then there's also the aspect of sovereign immunity, which, I can't sue any state unless I can pierce that immunity.
Yeah.
But I did want to say that the only reason why the 11th Amendment was even adopted was following a Supreme Court case called Chisholm v. Georgia, where basically it was the first like major case of the Supreme Court, and it set the legal standard that citizens can sue other states in federal courts. But I don't know, they didn't like that, and so they passed that amendment. States didn't like the fact that other citizens can like sue them, so it's just like, let's
Okay.
give ourselves some immunity from that.
Gotcha. Well, where you keep it at F?
Oh yeah,
Uh,
screw that amendment.
Orik?
Yeah, that's fine by me. I understand the logic. We'll go with the lawyer. We'll go with the pre-lawyer position.
Yeah. All right. Number 12 then. Our first F is the First Amendment after the Bill of Rights. They really messed that one up.
I wonder if
the 12th Amendment.
Who would have the same like viewpoint as me to put the 11th Amendment as F tier?
Okay, it kind of
If you just went out into the public and said which one was your least favorite,
which one's the worst?
Yeah.
Yeah, you get people to point to number 11. It is, sure.
Because it limits what they can do and who they can challenge for authority.
Mm-hmm.
So, 12th Amendment is the election of president.
Oh yeah, so basically like president and vice president can run together basically. Because before
everyone was independent. I think like Thomas Jefferson versus like who was it, James Madison or something, and the second highest vote basically got vice president. Yeah. Basically however you ranked was what your position in government was. Is that correct?
No.
And it was the system to elect the president and vice president.
You ran against people, but you ran for that position, so you could have someone be a Republican president and a Democrat vice president.
Right,
because they had the next highest votes. Yeah, so this one allowed you to run with a candidate, so that you could.
No, they didn't separate votes. It wasn't like a ranking system. It was you ran for that position. And whoever won that position got that position.
Okay.
Where do you guys?
F?
Yeah, I mean, it's so inefficient, to have electors selecting your president and vice president. Why not just like get rid of that amendment?
Yeah, it's very complicated. It also encourages the tribalism of like this group versus this group of people instead of like, you know what, we'll give this guy a president, but I also want this dude up there, so I'll vote for him as vice president. Okay. 13. What do we got here? We have
slavery.
Forgetful one, obviously. Abolition of slavery. Totally forgot what it was. I knew what it was
Let's come back to that one. We have to get now. Any legal perspective, Ari?
So yeah, there is some legal.
We know what the impact was. What's the?
Yeah. So 13th Amendment is pretty straightforward. You're not supposed to have slaves. Actually, that sounds really bad when I say it like that.
You're not supposed to have slaves. You can. No, they can be on your lawn. You just can't have them if they're there by choice.
That totally came out super wrong. What I really wanted to say was that it is a complete ban of slavery or involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime. So, in all of the United States. So even though, you can't own people, there's still that aspect of if you get committed of a crime, they can say like, oh, well, now you're gonna pick up trash on the side of the road,
or the person that you do that. Yeah, or the person that you just assaulted.
They don't have to pay you to do that.
Yeah. I put it in S.
S for slavery, yes.
Yes, exactly.
Oh God. Um,
What, do you think it's like a D? You think it's an F?
no, no.
All right, so we all agree
Um,
S for anti-slavery law.
All
yeah.
right.
All right. 14th
I was just looking at
Amendment.
cases. Um, 14th Amendment
14th
is
Amendment is the equal protection and other rights.
yeah. This is like
Protects
compared to
rights
the Fourth
against state
Amendment.
infringements. Hold on, I got a description. Protects rights against state infringements because this is a lengthy one. Defines citizenship. Citizenship. I can't speak to it either. Prohibits states from interfering with privileges and immunities. Requires due process and equal protection. Punishes states for denying vote and disqualifies Confederate officials and debts.
This was an important amendment in terms of, people used to think of themselves as Virginia citizens and then Americans.
Yeah, American
But with
second,
this
yeah.
yeah, and with this amendment, it's just like we're all Americans, and it pretty much applied the US Constitution to the states in a way that you have like the privileges and immunities clause. So if I get married in Virginia and I move to another state, they have to recognize my marriage certificate in
Because we're in the
Virginia.
same country. So it
Uh-huh.
challenged it, maybe not challenged. It limited more of the sovereignty power of the states next to the federal level. It's like, hey, you're all part of this government. We all agree on these things. You can't infringe on how other states do
Well,
things.
Hmm.
also the states during the reunification after the Civil
We
War.
can't hear you.
So, the states during the reunification after the Civil War, the southern states weren't allowed to rejoin the Union until they included the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments in their
Hmm.
state constitutions.
Yep.
So, I mean,
That's
there's a
part of that,
long-lasting impact to that one, so I'd give it an S
and
tier also.
that's part of that Confederate clause too in there.
And compared to the Fourth Amendment is also another amendment that is very heavily litigated. It provides a lot of avenues, and one of the most important acts of Congress is the Civil Rights Act,
Mm-hmm.
and it gets its power from the 14th Amendment.
Yeah. Basically, I'm going to see if this one sentence summarizes it. It enforces that the federal decisions are superior to the state decisions on certain things. So, like, if the federal law passes something, the states have to abide by it. They can't go
It
against it.
it so I guess also just to clarify, before people didn't really know if like the second or like if the first, second, or third amendments apply to the states. So like if a state government wanted to limit speech, for instance, we didn't
Yeah.
really know. And so that nationalized the US Constitution in a way that, all of the states, and going back to like, after the Civil War, it's just like, it made it so yeah,
Federal
you have
government,
to follow
Americans first, your state
state
thing is
governments have
second.
to follow the US Constitution.
Yeah, so it limited the sovereignty of the states. It's like, hey, you are your own state, but federal government rule takes precedent. All the states agreed on this at a federal level. You're part of that agreement. You have to follow it because it takes the states to make laws and all that stuff. That's the whole point of Congress. So it's like, hey, federal government, we declared this. You have to follow it because
So
you
we all
agree.
All
agree S
right.
tier then.
Yeah.
Yeah, S tier. Number
Awesome.
15. The rights of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the U.S. or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. And Congress shall have the power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. Not much discussion needed. I'm in favor of that. So S tier for slavery again.
Like anti-slavery.
Well, I mean S
No,
for
it's the
slavery.
right to vote. Yeah.
No, I'm making a joke of the words. The letters
Oh
starts
yeah,
in
S for slavery.
Yeah,
Yeah.
S for, yeah. Yeah, that's the joke I've been making the whole
Oh
time.
yeah, no, I caught that
Like
the
B for
first time.
dog, B for boy.
This time you're
Yeah.
just like, yep, we'll put in the S tier for slavery, not S for slavery. But I missed it this time around. Yeah, you said the same joke repeatedly. Any contentions with S tier, Ari?
No.
All right, 16th Amendment is next. Definitely halfway done now. 16th Amendment. Income tax.
Yeah. Congress can finally collect taxes on your income as of 1913.
In
Only
any
110 years into it.
whatever source derived, and
I
without
would say
regard for any
C tier.
census. So, well,
I'd,
it funds the government.
No one likes taxes,
I'd
but
But
it's
say
they're
also
important.
helpful.
They're important.
Yeah.
Like, we wouldn't have a government if we didn't have taxes. Period.
Well, I want to say
Yeah.
C tier, and I won't go into too much history about the tax itself, but I want to say C tier because, as written, it can be effective, but with the laws that come from it, it's been ineffective. So it's got the wiggle room based on people in power and how they want to implement it.
It has
That's
potential.
it has the potential to provide what it needs to fund the government and do what it needs to service the population.
It is
But
the
as it is,
protagonist we
C
need
tier.
but don't have yet.
Yeah, C tier.
All right. D?
C.
What?
Oh,
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right. 17th Amendment. Popular election of senators.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It's just like, before state legislatures would choose the U.S. senators, and this pretty much just changed it so that people in the states can directly elect their senators.
As opposed to just people could vote from other states.
No. So, the people who vote the people that are in the state legislatures, they would choose the senators.
The
So
state
Oh, yeah,
legislators the state
So they weren't
legislators would pick the
directly
senator.
elected.
So not just
Yeah.
like the president. Yeah, now they're directly elected. Okay. So that's got a pretty big impact.
A.
I would say B.
Yeah, I was thinking B. Well, yeah, we'll put it in B then.
I think it's got room for improvement though, because I mean, you run into the debate about 6 years. There's no term limit, things like that. From what it used
Yeah.
to be, it's definitely made an improvement.
It's
but
had a big impact, and it's not really challenged, I would assume. So, 18th, probably. I'm not even going to be ironic. Prohibition of liquor. I was going to say one of the most successful amendments in history because everyone remembers it. Liquor was
successful.
Yeah,
banned.
prohibition.
The first
So
successful
su-
failure.
First successful failure.
Did it do its job
Um,
well? I think it did its job extraordinarily well.
It was too good.
It was so good that they had to get rid of it.
Yeah, I would go with A in terms of effectiveness.
Effectiveness, yeah. Enforcement. Congress and several states have concurrent power to enforce this article. Ratification deadline within 7 years. In short, though, 1 year after the ratification of this article, manufacture, sale, and transportation of intoxicated liquors within the importation of, exportation of the United States and all territories subject to the jurisdiction thereof, beverage purposes are hereby prohibited. It banned drinking alcohol for sale, consumption, anything. And it
There's
And
two
then-
states that rejected the amendment,
oh, really?
which was Connecticut and Rhode Island.
Interesting.
And this thing was in effect for 14 years from the end of World War I until the Great Depression.
Yeah, and it helped create, what is it, like the Roaring Twenties dance clubs and everything, and
20s, and
mafias
Mm-hmm.
jazz.
invented.
Jazz
It
invented
is the
in
first
20s?
amendment to be repealed. So,
And only
and only, yes.
That
until we get our hands back on that first rascal.
task failed successfully. So where are we putting it? Because it was, well, okay. The amendment itself did its job really well. It took another amendment to get rid of it.
It's like, whoa, we gave too much power with this one. We're going a little crazy with that one.
So because it got removed, it obviously isn't like S tier or anything because it's not still around.
Yeah.
Honestly, this is probably an F.
It is a failed amendment.
It is a
so,
failed
yeah.
amendment. Yeah, it got removed. It was so good it got removed. So
On the premise of our parameters, how revolutionary was it? Very
It has no
revolutionary.
impact
How
nowadays.
long lasting? Yeah, how long lasting was it? It ain't there.
Is it really an
ain't there.
amendment if it has no power?
you know what has
Yeah.
more power? 19. You know why? Because it got rid of it.
No.
No, you're
No,
wrong.
no,
That
my bad.
was-
That's women's suffrage. Oh my God, I jumped way ahead. Women's
That's so
suffrage.
funny. And you put it under B?
Yeah,
You put it under B. That's so funny to me.
B.
Oh.
This
Yeah.
has less
So wait,
power
women's
than
right to
the
vote, buddy? B tier? I love it.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
it is what it is.
B for,
You
B
put
for
that next to
babes.
senators. That's so funny.
B for babes can vote.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. B for boobas.
You know what? I'm not even going to discuss that. Like, we'll just keep it there.
I totally didn't think it was the banning prohibition. Yeah. I'm literally looking at these, and I pointed it out before we started recording too. Like,
No,
yeah,
you did,
I
and
know
you're
what
just
13
like,
and 19 are. Yeah, I'm losing track. Women's suffrage. Where do you guys put this? Women get the right to vote explicitly.
Suffrage for us.
All right. Yeah. Anything that starts with an S just goes into S tier. All right. Yeah. So, the 20th Amendment, presidential term and succession. Thank you, FDR, and your non-real polio case.
he died because of this
And your
amendment.
12 plus years of service.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah, it
Almost
was 3
13.
terms.
Yeah, almost 13.
Yep. Almost
Um,
13.
he won 4 elections. Yeah.
No, he was president 4 times.
Yeah, he won
Like,
4 elections, but he didn't serve. He only served.
he didn't
12.
fully. He served a little bit.
He served
in the
12
fourth
years in like a few months. So
I'm
he
gonna look up the
served.
detail. I'm gonna look up the specifics while you guys talk.
Where do we put it? I say A.
It's C tier.
Really?
So
Limiting
as a
terms?
reminder to everyone, this is the amendment that puts the term limit for 2 full terms or 10 if a vice president or someone else
Yeah,
succeeds
either
the
2 full
president
terms or
halfway.
10 max. Yeah. So
Yeah.
if the president dies and your vice president serves 3 years, they can only run once because if they run again, that's over 10 years.
Yep.
Yeah, I say A tier because that just.
I don't know. I want a president to do 3 terms.
20 years.
Wait, is it really that?
They could go
Holy
20
moly.
years. They could get just constant elections if they keep winning. A good old dictatorship. But then
That's what we need,
but
a
then the
good
argument
old
is,
dictator.
well, if they weren't good enough, they wouldn't win the vote. But when you have all these other issues that go on, like, oh, well, are we really going to accept the voting patterns, or are we going to use electors instead of popular vote? If the voting systems change, we probably wouldn't need this law.
All right, so I guess I'll agree with A tier then.
When times are good, people are not complaining about this. When times are bad, doesn't matter who's in charge. Like, a lot of people didn't want FDR to serve a 3rd term or a 4th term, especially with his health, but he still did.
Yeah, he did do 13 years. He died in April of 1945.
So 13 in a couple months. Okay.
Yeah.
I say A tier. Where do you guys put it?
I'll have to agree with you. A tier.
I like how it structures the presidency and term limits. We need to do that for. Side note, I think we need to do that for congressional positions and state level, local level, federal.
Yeah.
That can be the 28th Amendment then.
Yeah, let's do it. Ratify the states. So 21st.
All right, so this one's to alcohol again.
It also failed. It was only set aside just to remove a different one.
It had
one. I like it. I like alcohol, so I would say A tier.
It had one job.
And it did
well.
It
did it well.
Wait,
did it have one job, or did
it technically had a couple sections? But the
Wait,
18th article of amendment to the Constitution of the United States is hereby repealed.
Yeah, we had enough of that.
And the second one and the third ones are just ratification deadlines, and transportation and stuff can continue.
Yeah, that's all it did. It just repealed the 18.
It just got rid of 18. Just entirely got rid of 18. So right now it's doing a goddamn good job of holding on to 18. Because imagine another amendment that comes around
today.
Imagine another amendment that comes around and repeals 21. So 18 is
repeal the repeal.
18 is valid again. Can you imagine that?
Wait, can you have a double negative? Yeah. I think they would have to just bring back the 20 or the 18th Amendment then.
That's what I was posing as a question earlier.
You have to get rid of the 21st because it explicitly calls out the 18th article of the Constitution.
Yeah.
So you'd have to get rid of the 21st.
No, but then. Oh.
Well, no, but if you go philosophically, then it's just saying just the 18th Amendment. So if you have the 28th Amendment that says we prohibit alcohol, the 21st Amendment only refers to the 18th.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
It's negated just by the fact that it's so specific. Yeah, that's one way to look at it.
But if it had a section on the transportation or importation of alcohol,
It does have that section.
Yeah.
and then like you don't do anything about that in the 28th Amendment, then pretty much you would
Basically, 19 is
bring back.
the opposite of 18, because 18 also had those sections about transportation, importation, and sale of liquor.
You're saying 19 again? You just keep talking about
Yeah, you
I
keep
don't know
talking
why. I
about
don't
that.
know why I keep thinking women's suffrage
Well,
is prohibiting my alcohol. Um,
Oh my God, that's
21st,
such a. I'm not gonna even say it. Never mind.
the 21st Amendment, yes, is like exact opposite of 18, because 18 also explicitly had a section talking about ratification deadline, as well as another section talking about the importation, transportation, and sale of liquor. So it's like 1, 2, 3 on the checklist. It does 1, 2, 3 to repeal 18.
I'll have to ask a constitutional lawyer about the. What if we bring back prohibition? How would we do it?
Yeah, that's a good thought discussion.
Yeah.
That's,
All right.
So
So
I would rank it as probably a C tier, if anything, because it does its job. I
and
mean,
that's
the
all it
impact of
does.
it.
That's
Yeah,
all
that's
the,
it
all it
does.
does. Yeah.
No one's
but
challenging the 21st. Well, people
but
might be.
the impact of it's its own philosophical debate. I mean, the whole premise of the 18th was people didn't like that, and now society says we want it back. So it's not as though it added anything new.
It shows
All
things
it
are
did,
working.
yeah, it shows the system works, but it's not like it added anything new to the system. This is what things were before the 18th, and it's like, let's go back.
Oh, my bad. We got 20th wrong.
How did we get the 20th wrong?
22nd is the presidential term limits. That goes in A.
I just saw that. Yeah. Hold
Yeah.
on. Wait. What was the 20th?
20th is when they get
Oh,
sworn in on the 20th at noon on the 20th, etc. Meetings of Congress, succession.
Oh, this
they
is the
determine their
presidential transitions.
yeah.
And then also the fact that, like, if a president dies, like it's the vice
Who's
president.
next and what are the branches?
And then,
based on the
yeah,
cabinets
yeah,
when
yeah.
they are created. Yeah, that's the
Fuck.
20th line of succession.
How did I? Yeah,
I don't know,
I
law
just
student. Did you get confused by my suffrage and
the
anti-prohibition
funny
numbering?
thing too is like I looked it up too. I brought up the 20th Amendment, and I'm just like, oh yeah, whatever,
It says the
term
word
limits.
president.
It's
It says
It
the word
says
president.
president, vice president. I'm just like, all right, term limits, whatever, move on.
It's
And then
funny
it's just
that
like, oh wait, yeah, it moves the date of the the periods when they actually start working.
yeah.
So before it was March 4th, and then now it's January 20th. You know, has to do with presidential transitions and then like the lame duck sessions.
Yeah. So
Blah blah
what are we
blah.
putting the 20th at then? Are we giving it A also, or moving it to a
Oh
different?
no, that's going down, buddy. I don't. That's D at most.
It's just
Yeah,
a
it's
lot of
another.
bureaucracy.
It's another process as
Yeah.
opposed
It's
to
just a
substance.
bureaucracy thing, just for
Yep.
management.
Also, I'm mistaking it again. Also, because it says Section 4, Congress can pass a law, to choose like the president, if they die, basically. So this is part of the secession. Wait, so then what the fuck is the 22nd?
The 22nd is presidential term limits.
Okay. All right. Yeah. All right.
Ratification deadline, but just the limits of the years we discussed.
Damn.
So we say D tier for all the transition period stuff.
B tier for 20, A tier for 22.
All right, sounds good. 23rd
Yeah, perfect.
Amendment, District of Columbia electors. I say S.
They now get a representative in Congress, in the House.
No,
the House.
But they don't vote.
They get electors. This is for voting. Like they have a honorary person in Congress that doesn't have any voting power, but represents the people of Columbia. Because for those who don't know, the capital is not supposed to be in any state, because then that state can have more power over the other states, because that's where the capital is. That's why the District of Columbia is its own entity, its own sovereignty. But that means because it's not a state, it doesn't have a right to vote. People don't have a right to vote because they don't live in a state that votes. So these people often go without representation, a voice, and so that's always up for contention. Is everything I'm saying correct, Ari?
So far, so good. So the 23rd Amendment deals specifically with like giving the district electors in the electoral college as it if it were a state.
It gives
Yeah,
them a right to
Um,
vote.
they get a represent.
they can vote
They
for
get to pick the
president.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get to pick the person who represents them.
But they
Yes.
still don't have representatives in Congress
They don't
that
have
can
it in
actually
Congress for
pass
normal laws and
laws.
stuff, just for
They don't,
elections.
yeah,
Yeah.
they don't have a seat.
Other thing too is Congress pretty much deals with like the laws passed by DC Council.
Yeah.
So they don't even have like their own autonomy to be able to pass their own laws. Congress can just be
Congress
like,
decides
eh.
how the capital is run. Yeah.
Side question. What is, I'm forgetting, isn't there some sort of process or procedure so that territories like Puerto Rico, Guam, they can have a representative that comes to speak to Congress and represent
I think
their
that's just a
territory?
law.
Does that apply to this?
I think that's
What
just
do you
Is
mean?
it?
well,
I might be
territories
thinking
can
of
have an
something else.
honorary representative in the chambers. They don't
It-
have
non-
voting
To give you
power.
an example, like there is one Democratic representative from DC. They're able to draft legislation, but they're not allowed to vote in it.
Or in
That's
So
what I'm
they
yeah.
thinking of.
so
Okay.
they can, yeah,
So
they
that's
can
what I was getting at. Okay. They have a representative, they just don't have the voting capacity. Yes.
yes.
Okay. So we're ranking it at A. That's
It gives DC the right to vote. Yeah.
Yeah.
okay. Putting it at A tier. And not S. So what is the 24th Amendment? Go. Anyone?
No poll taxes.
No. Oh, okay. So that the infringements on voting rights,
Mm-hmm.
right? The poll tax.
Yeah, because if you have to pay a tax to go vote and you're too poor to pay a tax, you can't vote.
That's not the poll tax.
I think it
What are
is
you
Oh
talking
no,
about?
yeah, it is. I'm looking at the 25th.
he's back to the he's back at the 19th. He's
uh,
back.
19th
Women
Amendment.
again.
We'll just put 19th at F tier. Or I'm in
God,
24th at F tier.
there's so many amendments in here about women voting. What's going on?
It's everywhere.
Wait, you say poll taxes or wait? Okay,
I
B
thought that-
tier. I would say yeah, B tier. It doesn't really affect anything anymore. I don't know.
Well, it specifically
It's a
forbids the
prohibition of
payment.
poll taxes.
Yeah, but I thought the 14th
But I would say
Amendment got rid of
like
that.
now we need more stringent,
yeah,
stringent.
because some states are looking for
laws.
other ways to go around a poll tax by making them pay for other forms of registration instead
Well,
of
not
just.
only that, but they require like so many different requirements just to be able to vote, like an ID, and then like
That's what I mean. You have to go pay for the registration and that stuff. That takes time and or money to pay for the actual ID and whatnot.
Oh, I didn't see it in that way. Yeah.
Yeah,
Licenses,
it's like
IDs,
going an
stuff like
extra
that.
step further. Be like, they're not paying for the poll tax, but they're paying.
They're not paying a tax. They're paying for a fee. They're paying for a license. They're paying for some non-tax thing that still costs money if required.
They have to take the day off because they can only vote at this time. So
The amendment prohibits taxes and poll taxes. It doesn't prohibit, at least unless it's been tried by law, and I'm not familiar. It doesn't prohibit other fees and licensing requirements and things that may cost money in order to be qualified to vote. So on basis of it only getting rid of the taxes, yeah, B tier. Could it have done more? Does it do more? No, it doesn't. And it could have. Should have.
I thought the 15th kind of protected that, but apparently not. The 15th is just
Right to vote. It just gives
yeah.
them the right to vote.
Based on race, color, or previous condition of servitude.
This is another procedural one.
Yeah. So where are we putting 24?
Thought we said B tier. Did I miss here?
Just making sure we all agree. So 25 is not abolition of poll. It's presidential vacancy. Ari? All right, here. Presidential vacancy. In case the removal of
he's reading real quickly.
Yeah,
I promise.
there's a lot of paragraphs here. Yeah. In case the
it's
removal
just
of the
a
president.
presidential secession.
Yeah.
Secession. Yeah.
In case the removal
Who
of
gets to
president
do
from
what?
office or the death or resignation, the vice president shall become president. So why was this made an amendment? Why was it not intuitive or something? Does this also count for like when the president goes under surgery and is in anesthesia for a bit?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that if they're
Yes.
in, if they're in,
The vice president becomes acting president until the powers and duties are returned to the president.
Was this
incapacitated
enacted
for
because
any
of
capacity.
JFK? Why was this enacted and not?
This was enacted in 1965, so yes, I would say that, that
I believe this
deals
was
with,
because of the whole Lyndon B. Johnson, who's in control thing.
Yeah.
yeah. What else can
That's
I say about this?
This also gives if I remember correctly, this is the one that gives the cabinet the right to remove the president if they have concerns about mental capacities or physical capacities to perform the duty as the president.
it declares the president pro tempore of the Senate and Speaker of the House. Yeah. Duty unable to discharge powers. Um, they can, yeah, they
Whenever
can.
whenever the vice president and the majority of either the principal officers of the executive departments or such other bodies Congress may by law provide transmit to the president pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives the written declaration that the president is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, the vice president shall immediately assume the powers. And then some other procedural stuff as to how to make sure that takes effect and rescinded and all that sort of. If the president can't do his job, who's in charge? How do they determine that? More procedural stuff, but of some substance, of some value.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the fourth section talks about the vice president and a majority of either principal officers of the executive department or bodies of Congress write that, oh, we don't think they're fit to do their job. They have 4 days to act on that stuff and challenge it. Yeah. So this declared a way for the rest of people to challenge the one at the top who has all to say. Be like, oh, we don't think he's or she is in the correct condition to serve anymore. Or they can't serve because they're in surgery. So this person is legally in charge now for these 2 hours. That kind of stuff. Okay. I put it at C.
A little interesting fact about Section 3, which, transfers the power temporarily from the president to the vice president.
Mm-hmm.
In 2021, Joe Biden was undergoing a colonoscopy, and
Yep.
he made Vice President Kamala Harris as acting president from 10:10 a.m. until 11:35 a.m. So making her the first woman to hold the powers and duties of the U.S. presidency.
And meanwhile, I forget what year it was, but I want to say like 2019 or 2020, President Trump had to go through some sort of surgical procedure and was so concerned about Mike Pence having the power that he did not take anesthesia during that surgery. I think it was also a colonoscopy, a routine colonoscopy.
I was gonna say, like, what a G. He's like, just don't knock me out. Like,
I don't I don't want to give it. I don't want him in charge. Don't do it.
that's funny if it's true. Just for anyone that's like, I gotta keep the power. Even if Biden was like that, he's like, yeah, give me the colonoscopy raw. So I put it in
Yeah,
C tier. It's kind of procedural. It gives a little bit more power to like challenge the person at top, so it doesn't just like they rule everything without question.
yeah. It was in 2021, a supposed report that in 2019, when Trump went for an unreported colonoscopy, he skipped the anesthesia so that he didn't have to pass the powers to Mike Pence.
You know what? More power to him. That's just funny. That's just like he's like, I'm keeping every minute of this. I earned every minute of this being in charge. Imagine if he had breaking news in the middle of that. Someone came busting through the door, like.
So this amendment, as you were saying, it's got some powers to do things.
It's procedural. We usually put
Value.
the procedural stuff at D.
Procedural.
Are we putting it at D or C?
Just
I'll
because it's
go
got
with,
the opportunity to be so funny, I'm going to say C.
Yeah. You can do some cool stuff with the 25th if you're president.
Yeah. Or vice
trying
president.
Or trying to get rid of the president, yeah.
Yeah.
So now the 26th Amendment, reduction of voting age. Excuse me. The right of all citizens who are 18 years and older cannot be denied the right to vote. So it reduced it from what, 21 or no? The states can decide, right? Did the states?
Federally it was 21.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're talking about federal, so to vote in a federal election.
So now if you're 18 and you're being taxed, you can vote. So,
Well, it wasn't a matter of being taxed. This was in response to the Vietnam War. These people at age of 18 are being drafted and dying, fighting for the country, and then they come back and they have to wait 2, 3+ years to actually have the right to vote after
yeah,
having
but
just
while
protected the
they're
Congress had
also
country.
originally
serving,
tried to pass a
while they're also
law
serving, they're
that,
being taxed and taxes involve around them. So
yeah.
another part. The government runs on money, so th're like, oh, we can't keep doing this. People are
I mean, you pay sales tax when you're not 18.
true, but they weren't earning money. People in Vietnam, they were getting paid to do that, even if they didn't want to. They
I
have
know,
to.
I know.
So,
What were you saying, Ari?
I was gonna say, yeah, going back to a little history of it, Congress tried to lower the voting age for state and local elections, but because the Supreme Court said that, Congress doesn't have that power to do that, that's when they passed the 26th Amendment.
It wasn't in the Bill of Rights.
so A tier, we put the District of Columbia electors at A tier. So
I would say A tier because it's different between saying a whole, for lack of a better phrase here,
a whole
a whole
group of people.
category, yeah, a whole group of people, category of human beings versus just your age and lifespan. You're taking an element of being a human versus just being a human. So A tier.
Yeah, because the other ones were like, "Hey, you are black. You are still human. You're allowed to vote," as opposed to being like, "You can vote a little sooner because we're charging you
You bet
taxes and you have to serve in the military, but you can't vote." Yeah,
you've been around long enough. Yeah.
you agree with that, Ari?
Yeah,
All
I
right.
mean, we should definitely keep it up there.
And the final amendment here: congressional compensation 27. No law varying the compensation of the services of the senators and representatives shall take effect until an election of representatives shall have intervened.
This was a screw around amendment because it's actually pretty funny. It was actually one of the first amendments proposed in the first Congress.
Way
It
back in
was
19 or 1790s.
1789 along with the other 11 proposed amendments.
So it's a slacker.
And
Okay.
and the funny thing is, like, there's a story in 1982. There was a 19-year-old sophomore student at the University of Texas at Austin who wrote a paper talking about these like forgotten amendments.
Mm-hmm.
And he wrote a paper for his government class in which he claimed that the amendment could still be ratified. So he later launched like a nationwide campaign to complete the ratification. And so the amendment actually became part of the US Constitution on May 5th of 1992, completing a record-setting ratification period of 202 years, 7 months and 10 days, beating the previous record set by the 22nd Amendment of 3 years and 349 days. So, yeah.
After FDR like won the second election.
Yeah,
Or won his third election, yeah. Um
that was, one of the first and now it's like one of the last. So,
so what is it doing exactly though? Just keeping their pay at the same amount each year, or what is it about representatives
so
intervening?
pretty much it's a corruption prevention type of thing. So, it requires an election before a congressman's salary increase takes an effect.
So not while they're already
So the
serving. They
public could
can't just like
remove,
raise it in the middle of a term.
yeah, so the public can remove members of Congress from office before their salaries increase.
Gotcha.
Um,
So
but
it can't be changed during a term. That's it. Or is that an ignorant way to view it?
all right, I'm sorry,
Yes.
what was your question?
Um, 27th Amendment. Basically, you can't change your salary while you're serving your term until the next election. You can't like, oh, it's been another month. Let me give myself a $10,000 raise. They can't do that until
Yeah,
the
pretty
next
much
election.
I can't even say if Congress actually have like passed like pay increases. But I was thinking like, yeah, next year I'm gonna set a pay increase for my salary. Nope. Well, the amendment is like, nope, you have to wait until after the election
You have to
before it
win
takes
again.
effect.
You have to win again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that seems pretty lame because they can still raise
It's
it.
also like, it's unclear if it has any effect. It's like these people are paid like $200,000 a year. I mean, they get paid pretty well. I don't think they're
And they
too
can
concerned
raise it.
about.
In addition to lobbying money that they can
And
collect.
they can raise it to whatever they want. There's no real
Oh yeah,
cap to it, so they can just be like, "Oh, if I don't get it, the next person will get a 10% increase." I say F.
it's not effective.
No one knows what it does, or it doesn't do its job well. It's just
Yeah.
kind of there. Do you agree
It
with that,
really
Orik?
does not. It does nothing when you see the other kinds of compensation they can have and the benefits they get. So it's F tier.
All right.
I
So
don't know the historical context behind it, but the effect is F tier.
this is the official unfiltered pineapple tier list of the 27 amendments from S to F. Not gonna
Riveting
list.
stuff. We're not scraping the bottom of the barrel. We're just starting.
Yeah, we're not gonna list all of them, but the S tiers we got Amendment 1, 4, 13, 14, 15, and 19. So freedom of speech, etc. Searches and seizures, end of slavery. Right to vote is 15. 14 is citizenship.
Hmm.
And 19 is women's suffrage, not anti-prohibition. Um, and 11, 12, and 11, 12, 18, and 27 are all F. So the First Amendment after the Bill of Rights and the most recent one, F's. Just a fail sandwich. Yeah. Any final comments on this stuff, everybody?
We need more amendments. That's what we need, so we can add them to the tier list.
Okay, yeah. I like how consistent this is. It's not a typical bell shape, but it's like very balanced, spread out.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
very
you got winners and
nice.
losers throughout history. Some are going to be good and some are going to be bad. That's fine.
Yeah, but 18 is only there because it took. I was gonna say 19 again. It took 21 to completely get rid of 18. If otherwise, it was so good at its job, it had to get removed.
I always confuse the 18th and the 21st. Or I
really,
mean
I
the
get
20th.
21 and
The
19
20th,
mixed
not
up.
the 21st.
I
Sorry.
get 21 and 19 mixed up constantly. I don't know why.
Dean gets everything that's not in the Bill of Rights confused with 19.
Women's suffrage.
Yeah. Everything that's not Bill of Rights is women's suffrage.
No,
to
I know
Dean.
18's prohibition, and then I forget everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. This was a long episode. Thanks for tuning in to Law 101, everybody, or
Yeah,
Constitutional
let us
Amendments
know
101.
let us know what you think about that
Tell us
tier
where we
list.
got it wrong.
Or right.
Or right. Yeah.
Or any constitutional lawyers that say otherwise, let us know in the comments.
Again,
Hit us up.
this isn't us politicizing the amendments or anything. It's just their overall
We
effectiveness.
try to make it very unpolitical.
Well, yeah, it's their overall effectiveness from wording to impact, everything about that amendment itself, memorability versus who remembers 27. So, yeah, we tried to do this as impartial and unbiased as possible, just looking at it as matter of fact. So, well, with that, any final words, Orik? I've got nothing else.
Oh, the only other amendment I'd be in favor of is, making certain fast food chains national icons, but I guess that's more of a law. 7th Amendment.
Yeah, my only amendment would be term limits for Congress. So
Yeah, I talked about that one already.
yeah, that's the one I can think of primarily right now. Others for another discussion, another day, another episode. Ari, finish us off. Oh, I think he cut
Died
out
again?
Yeah, he cut out again. Oh, unlucky. All right. Well, goodbye,
Thanks
everybody.
for joining us.
Thanks for joining us. Ari's already disconnected. We'll see you in the next one. We'll Give suggestions for the next tier list. All right.